Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, it's a little after 9 o'clock. It's Thursday. You've heard the music, so you know what time it is. It's time for the workplace here exclusively on KBF 88.3, Voice of the People Community Radio. I'm your host for the workplace, Toney Orr, and my co-host, Denise Donnell, is in the studio also. Just wanted to remind you that the workplace is sponsored and underwritten by United Labor Union's Local 100 for the people and by the people. I hope everybody's having a great Thursday morning so far. It's been a very interesting week for me. I just got back in from Houston, Texas last night, trying to got a little rest, trying to get moving this morning. But I am so happy and so glad to be here. But also, I'm glad that you are here. I'm glad that you're taking time out of your day, your morning to tune in to the show this morning. I have some interesting things to talk about. But first, I want to also remind you that we are in Players Drive. We are in Players Drive. We are in Players Drive. So your donations and your pledges go to the sustainability of KBF 88.3 FM. We have been around for over 38 years, 100,000 watt platform for education, for enlightenment, and for empowerment for all people. For 38 years, we have been that voice here in Little Rock, here in Arkansas, and around the world on our streaming platform. ABF is a nonprofit, so everything that we get in, every penny goes back into the sustainability. We have volunteer staff, volunteer DJs that come in and do this work for you, the listening audience. So you can give three ways. You can go to www.kbf.org and you can give online. And while you're there, become a sustaining member of KBF 88.3. Your monthly contribution goes to the sustainability of KBF. You can give whatever you decide to give, whatever your heart tells you to give. You can give $5, you give $50, you can give $500, whatever you want to give. You can also call 501-372-6119, and you can give your donation over the phone. You can also call one of the many shows, call that show or call that host, and you can give your donation that way. 501-433-0088. You can also send us a check and money order to 2101 South Main Street here in Little Rock, Arkansas, 72206. And if you just out and about, you want to come by and give your donation in person, we'll make sure that you won't leave empty-handed. Make sure you leave with something to show our appreciation for you coming up the steps and giving us a donation. And you can do that at 2101 South Main Street also. But just remember, We are here to provide a service to you in all our shows, whether it's music, whether it's talk, whether it's gospel, whatever it is, we're here to provide that service for you. And we do it for the love of and the enjoyment of just being in connection and relationship with you, the listening audience. So before I move on, I want to give my co-host, the Reverend Dr. Denise donnell, an opportunity.
Good morning, Grand Rising to you. It is always good to be in your presence. I'm excited about how the conversation will unfold. So thank you for being here. We are grateful for you.
And so, like I said, was down in Houston, in our Houston office, working, need to hire somebody for our office there. And while I'm sitting in the office, I'm just thinking about, I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to figure out, not just in my Houston office, but in other offices, the difficulty of hiring people, and not just hiring people, who want to work, who want to do the work, and it just made me just start to think about work ethic, reliability, dependability, and I'm just trying to figure out what is going on in not only in our society, but I know a lot of it in a lot of jobs, especially coming out of the pandemic. One of the things that we fight for as a union is for better wages. I look at our I look at our Head Start centers. I look at our nursing homes and how we fight for better wages for them, and we fight for better wages across the board for all our entities. But even with better wages, even with better working conditions, there seems to be this. I don't want to say. I don't know how to put it. It seems to be that it's difficult to still find the people who are willing to do the work. And you have all these different dialogues, you have all these different experts, you have all these different people coming up with ideas. There's some, on the right who say, well, it's because, people want to sit at home and live off the system, or they want to sit at home and get unemployment. But then on the other side, I hear people who want to work, but because of so many different circumstances, lack of transportation, lack of childcare, all these different things, and I'm thinking about all these things and trying to just figure out what is really going on. So I know I threw a lot out there. I know I threw a lot of different things out there, but but I do want to have a conversation about what do you, the listening audience, think? How do you feel about it? What do you think can be done? Because you hear, this idea that, well, there's no jobs, but is there really no jobs? And when the jobs are there, are people really working the job, or are they looking for something else? And so that's the conversation I want to have this morning. So what comments you got about it, Denise?
First, let me say, Hotep, I see you low on the screen. Thank you for those of you who have joined us via Facebook through StreamYard. We are happy that you are here with us through the internet. And I know other people are watching because I can see up at the top that you are there. And if you don't want to make yourself known, that is fine. We are just glad that you are with us. I think that it's one thing to talk about childcare, transportation, days off, how many benefits you have in terms of paid time leave, that kind of thing. I think that's one thing. I also think that we don't talk enough about managers, because I've read lots of research that talks about the fact that people really don't quit jobs, they quit managers. And so there are folks who are in service to the employees as supervisors, as managers, as directors, as executive directors, as assistants, and all of those titles that they hold. And they make the situation, they make the work environment unbearable. They create hostile environments, and they make it so that people are pushed out of the job, regardless of all of the other factors that they're already dealing with. Now I have to come in and deal with incompetence. I've got to come in and deal with micromanagement. I've got to come in and deal with insecurity. I've got to come in and deal with racism and sexism and microaggressions. I've got to deal with all of that. And we are at the point now where people know that because you say there are other jobs, I don't have to deal with this, and I'm not going to. And so I quit.
Yeah, and so I find that a lot in the entities that we're working with, the workers I represent, and especially here in the state. And I'm just going to, because Arkansas is my main base, even though I have to travel to all these other cities and all these other states as a field director and these other offices. Arkansas is my main base. And one of the things I found out, especially within the state of Arkansas, the workers we represent here, is that you find that a lot, where a manager may be a good mother, may be a good husband, brother, sister, friend, cousin, auntie, uncle, but they're not good managers. And so you are right in that aspect. But the problem becomes, I think, in this context, in this context, is that when you promote employees up to these managers, or this career path that they say, when they become that, I don't think they vet these or train these managers well enough. They don't train them in. And you look at what's happening now. They want to get diversity. They don't want diversity being taught, being part of the training anymore in the state and federal government. And so what happens, nobody's taking the time to go through these steps with these managers, how to deal with conflict, how to deal with other races, other ethnic groups, how to truly manage. One of the things I found out is that when I talk to some of these managers, they will say, and supervisors, they will say, they gave me this job, but they didn't do anything else. I keep asking for supervisor training. I keep asking for advanced supervisor training, and it's not there. And so now I'm trying to manage people, and the only way I can manage them is based on me. And I think that's become problematic, because you allow your feelings, you allow other things to get in the way, and that can be problematic. Let me get this call. Caller, you on there?
Well, thank you so much. Good morning, Sister Denise.
Good morning, Ezekiel.
Those on the web as well as those with. Before I go forward, and I'm going to expound on what you just said, I wanted to just give a commemorative to that kind of King of Trump who passed. And she had looked like that in case you didn't know, there's a guy by the name of John Craig, who played with Peace and Little Rock. Also, Alan Atkins from North Little Rock, who went to Johnson. They were believe that you're doing a good job for your company or your boss or whatever. So it's a number of things that make you, successful in your work. And that is, like you said, take care of your staff, you'll take care of you. That should hold true today. But it's not the same atmosphere because now you can be terminated, like unceremoniously without a warrant. They don't even let you know they could lay off or anything like that. But there's not a lot of security like it used to be when you had the pensions and the unions that were pretty strong as far as the work. Not as far, but another part of the country is very, very nominated to work hard. Like a lot of folks have been charged to work for the car manufacturers that have in a lot of factory jobs in Chicago. They go to the repacking companies, things like that. They just have jobs in the railroad. We have the best dentists in the world. I don't know how it is now. And a lot of these places where you work, you go there to go to work, and it's like a year-to-day going on atmosphere. So you can't even develop a work ethic before, So it's kind of hard on both ends. What do you think about that?
Well, I think one of the things, and you mentioned one word, a couple of words, work ethic. And where is the work ethic?
Well, I was talking like that. Doing your job, really, doing the work on time.
Well, even with that, how reliable? And I do understand one thing that you said, Denise, about people quit managers, but what happens when it's not the manager's fault when the work you are being? Well, let me do this. Do you have anything else to say, Matt, so we can have this conversation off?
I don't hear anything about it. I think down about that.
Okay. And so what I was saying is, I hear a lot of people say this now, that this new generation or this younger generation, they don't want to work. They don't want to work. So, is it that they don't want to work? Is it a lack of work ethic, or are we teaching people how to work? Or is it a thing of just people just don't care?
I want to say thank you to Ezekiel for reminding us of the death of Tina Turner. I do think that we should pause for just a moment, just to remember, like we usually do when someone in our community is lost. So if you don't mind, Toney, if we could just be quiet for a minute, not a whole minute. When I was thinking about Tina Turner's life and beginning to just read more about her, it's amazing how we wait till somebody dies and then we want to talk so much about them. And then when they are alive, we don't talk as much. We talk, but not as much. But when I was reading about her and thinking about her story, one of the things that in an interview with Larry King, he asked her if America was her home. She said, no, she doesn't. She said, I pay taxes here. But this is not my home. And one of the reasons why, she talked about how Europe appreciates her value, appreciated her art and her gifts and her talents more than the United States. And he's like, wait a minute, you were hugely popular. You were extremely popular. I hate that word. You were extremely popular in America. And she said, absolutely, but not as popular as Madonna, not as popular as the way that the people receive me in another country. And so when you talk about the lack of training for managers, when you talk about the unwillingness of this country to reckon with the issues that cause us to have issues between employees and employers, this country's refusal to deal with the truth of who we are in needing more more understanding, more competency, more proficiency in these areas of isms that affect our everyday lives. We are not willing to invest in the employees in the ways that would make employees feel valued. And so when you say, as an employee, I'm not invested in, and then you promote me into these managerial positions, I've already lived the experience in this workplace where I am not valued. And the workplace has taught me that there is no value. So when I become a manager, I simply replicate the same thing that was happening to me. I become the manager that I did not even like when I was an employee. And so it's a perpetuation of the kinds of environments that cause people to not want to work there. I don't believe that young people don't want to work. I believe that we are growing a consciousness around what it means to be valued in all spaces, but particularly in the workplace. Because Ezekiel was talking about a work ethic. I know for a fact that my own lived experience, I am probably the best employee you will have. And yet, and still, the person who is my manager not only does not have the same credentials, the same academic resume, the same pedigree, doesn't have any of those things. Not only that, but you don't even know my job. You've been put in this position for so many other reasons. You don't even know how to do my job. And yet you are my manager. How does that work? And so you don't know how to do it, nor are you willing to recognize your own deficiencies to say, let me find somebody who can help you. Let me find somebody who can shore me up so that I am stronger in this position of being your manager, your supervisor, your director, whatever those labels are. You won't even do that because your ego, especially now that you've been promoted, your ego has been promoted as well. So you're so busy trying to strut around and let everybody know you in charge that you're creating an environment that no one wants to work in. Many people are working in the places where they are because they are forced to. I've got bills to pay. I have children to feed. I've got parents to care for. I don't have a choice but to go to work. And so these are the kinds of situations that are happening. And so you can't blame it on us. I think you have to ask the question, what environment are you creating that makes a person want to say, yes, I freely give of my gifts and my talents and my graces because I know that you value me in this place.
Yeah, and first of all, yesterday, when I heard, I was actually on my way back from Houston, and I had stopped at a Whataburger.
Love Whataburger. Have you been to the one here?
No, because it's always a line. I guess it's new, but yes. When I'm traveling, especially when I'm heading to Texas or heading in Texas, eventually I'm gonna stop at a Whataburger. I love that grilled chicken sandwich. That's all I get. But when I heard about Tina Turner's passing, I automatically flashed back, and I would tell anybody. I've had a crush on Tina Turner ever since a kid, ever since the first time I saw her singing Proud Mary. And everything she has done, music wise, and her life, just reading about her life story, just hearing about how so many things she overcame. I just had a crush on her. I've always admired her. And so, yes, it saddened me to hear about her passing. But also, when you talk about it, and I think that's important, what you were saying, Denise, because that's what, as a union organizer, that's the biggest thing that I fight. One of the biggest things that I fight in my job. That's 80% of my grievances, boil down to how someone or a manager has taken the policy and misused it because a lot of times because I don't like you, or I feel threatened that you're trying to take my job. I feel like I have the power. I can do this, and I'm going to exercise my power, because a lot of times you have an employee who's being supervised or managed, and they go to the supervisor and they ask the question, how do I do this? you know, and I answer that be, I don't know. You figure it out. So then that employee go figure it out, and the first thing that manager may say, well, you did it wrong. And then the next thing is, well, I asked you how to do it. You told me to figure it out. So I did the best I could in figuring it out. And then it may be that that manager, and what I'm talking about is cases that I actually had to go and fight because now the manager or the supervisor comes back and say, you're being rude. How dare you question me? How dare you ask, question me on what I know? And next thing you know, I'm gonna write you up. I'm gonna suspend you. I'm gonna even fire you because now you're being unprofessional, and now you're not being compliant. Because part of being compliant is not being insubordinate, and I think you're insubordinate. And because I used the policy against you, you know, that's what we're using to terminate you or discipline you, and you have to go in and fight against that policy. So in that aspect of what you're saying, I do agree. And so that's why it's so important. And part of it is it goes back to something we always talk about is voting. When you vote and when you don't vote, and there are people put in positions that help determine these outcomes or help determine how the workplace is playing out, how policies are being implemented. And then when you see the results of how that is playing out and people being disciplined, people being fired, and even people just, losing, like you said, losing the idea of my value. Because at the end of the day, I believe that the employees have the real power. If there's no employees, how's that business going to run? How is that business going to function? How is that entity going to work if there's nobody to do the work? So the value of the employees are real important. And when you mention Europe, that's one I love it. When in Europe, they would hit the streets and protest in a heartbeat. They will shut it down in a heartbeat. And where here in the U.S., it's such a fear. Now there's some unions that will do it, but overall, it's such a fear of doing it.
I want to get these comments in from Phyllis Brown and Hotep. Phyllis says, my sister took me to see Ike and Tina Turner at the segregated Dunbar Community Center in 1957. It cost 50 cents. Thank you, Tina Turner. So thinking about Ezekiel talking about this person, this group, this band that's been a part of our lives for so long. Thinking back to 1957 and all that was going on, even in Arkansas, and yet Tina Turner offers her gifts and her graces to us. And then how do we respond as America? And then Lowe says, the system has de-emphasized higher education, state and federal, in awarding promotion. State and federal has issued policies in not promoting people to management. And so when we're talking about this environment, one of the things that I love about the time that we're living in now is that it allows us, especially Black folks, it allows us to tap into our own ingenuity. It allows us to tap into our own creativity. It allows us to tap into our own innovations so that we can declare, I forgot to put this comment up on the screen. I put it on the screen. So that we can declare that we can start our own businesses. And that's another reason why people are not working in the traditional sense, is because I can start a business online. I can start my own business in my own home. There are so many other avenues that I am able to explore and discover in generating streams of income that allow me to be my own manager, to be my own boss. And that is what some of us prefer because we know our own value. And I don't have to subject myself to this manager's opinion of myself in the wake of the work that I am doing. And so that's another reason why people are like, I don't have to deal with this. There are other ways that I can make my money. Run me my coins.
Call you over there.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning to both of you all.
Good morning.
Listen, I want to express my condolence to
Tina family. I saw the movie version of her, and it was me and my friend did it years ago. And you know, according to the movie version, her mother did something like they accused some of the mothers up in Chicago did with the brother that I forgot his name, and that song was a little bumping around, whatever his name was, with the young lady sold Tina to Ike. But anyway, I didn't get angry about that because time was hard, and I was a master musician out of Mississippi. He was a genius. Well, drugs got him on his back. But anyway, it was a fair deal because hadn't it been for Ike, she probably maybe wouldn't have reached the height she did as far as entertainment. But I want to say this here. I urge everyone that financially possible can purchase the book on her autobiography or biography, whatever be out. And I also suggest that you go to the Pyramid bookstore and purchase through the Hearns, because I go way back with them when they was on 13th and Main. They are genuine people. And you all are conducting a good show. You've been doing it for years. I just wish we could get more time for you all. You all really complement each other with compassion and intellect. Thank you.
Want to just say that there are a couple of books, since Mr. Willie lifted this up for us, that there are a couple of books that you can go to Pyramid and see if they are on the shelves. First, I do recommend that you go to Pyramid to see if they are on the shelves, simply because of the experience. The experience of walking into the bookstore and knowing that it is a bookstore that centers the stories of Black folks, the excellence of Black folks, the excellence of Black literature, of Black intellectualism, of the Black genius. It's just an amazing thing. And so then while you are browsing the shelf looking for the book about Tina Turner, you will see so many other things. And there's also an art gallery attached. So it's just an amazing experience. So at first I would say go and see if it's already there. And if it's not there, you can ask and they will order it. It usually comes in on the following Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. But there are two books that you can look for. One is called I, Tina, My Love Story, and the other one is My Love Story. I think these are two different books, because one says I, Tina, My Love Story. That's the one I'm most familiar with, but there's also My Love Story by Tina Turner. So you can find Pyramid Bookstore located at 1001 Wright Avenue right here in Little Rock.
Caller, you in there?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm calling from Fairfield Bay. It's Sonia Swanson.
Hey, Miss Swanson.
Love to Dr. Denise and Tony. Thank you for all the work you do. I've loved Tina Turner for longer than I can remember. The union thing that you were talking about is so very strong. I was just talking with a woman on the phone about returning something that my son has done from Amazon.com. And I said, I do not buy from Amazon. I boycott them because I do not like the way they treat their workers. I do not like the way I treated Turner.
Hello? Hello? Miss Swanson, can you give us a call back? You cut out those, it became just garbled, and then it went out. So if you can, just give us a call back. And so, in talking about, and when you mentioned that Tina Turner said on an interview with Larry King that America didn't value her, or that
No, I said that she said she has more, they appreciate her more in Europe. She didn't say that America didn't value her at all. She just said they appreciate her more in Europe.
And also, did she believe she was an American citizen, or did she feel like she was did she say American citizen?
He asked her, does she live in America? And she
Okay.
said, I pay taxes in America, but she made her home in Zurich, in
Yeah.
Switzerland.
And so, for those that don't know, when she moved to Switzerland, she gave up on American citizenship. You know, and so but that has been the history in a lot of ways for a lot of not only entertainers but writers and authors. You know, Miles Davis spent time in Europe. James Baldwin moved to France. Josephine Baker became a star in France.
And Asada Shakur is exiled, right, into Cuba.
Yes, yes. And so when you talk about it, and I never forget watching the Motown Hitsville. It's a movie called Hitsville, where it's talking about the rise of Motown and everything, and it's talking about these. Not I take it back. Not Hitsville. What's the name? It's talking about the band, the background band for Motown. I cannot think of the name of that documentary. I've watched it several times. I can't remember the name of it, but these musicians, the background musicians, and they had I want to say the funk band. I want to say that the Funk Brothers or. I can't think of the name of it, but they were
Funk Brothers?
Yeah.
Is that it?
I think that's the name of it. But they were talking about how when they traveled to Europe, that the fans knew them. They knew who they were. They knew what instruments they played. They knew them. And you know, but they would travel throughout the States and nobody knew, they would know the headliner, whether it was Marvin Gaye, whether it was Tammy Terrell, whether it was Four Tops. They knew them, but they didn't know the band.
Yeah, so Kwame said it's the Funk Brothers.
Okay.
And I believe that the name of the documentary is Standing in the Shadows
Yes.
of Motown.
Yes. And it was so interesting how it was just amazing how you can't get the recognition here. Well, I won't say recognition. You get, the love that you want here from not just Black people, but from all of society. You have to travel thousands of miles away to get that. And that goes back to, Denise used to say this to me all the time. And as when we first met and started working in different spaces, doing actions and activism, she said this to me all the time. At first I didn't believe it, but eventually, not that she convinced me, but I opened my eyes. I became enlightened and I saw it. She used to say that everything comes down to race in this country. Everything. And I was like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. But it does. And everything. I was having in Houston, as we were getting ready to do, community voices, and I don't like technology. I can't stand it, but at times I can embrace it. I was in Houston. I don't know where she was, but you never did tell me where you were. But we were doing StreamYard, but we were able to record the show. And before we, I don't know if it was before or after, but we started, having this conversation about race. And it is so amazing how, now we were talking about Amanda Gorman, who poem Together We Rise.
The Hill We Climb.
The Hill We Climb that she did at the inauguration of President Barack Obama. One parent in Miami Lakes complained about it, and then it got banned. And I'm like, what? But And I was listening to listening this morning to the news, and said it's because there was this implication of blackness or black. I forget how the person said it, but basically, because they don't want to talk about the history or anything dealing with black lives, to me, we don't want to have it talked to our children. They said it's too, uh, it's not appropriate for children of that age.
Well, I want to make sure let me just clear a couple of things up. The book was pulled from the shelves, and
Right.
now they're going to investigate whether or not it should be banned from the school. But also, I think it's important for this conversation, the way that it's playing itself out, talking about how the Funk Brothers were unknown as the band behind Motown, and how in other places they were recognized and they were well known. And not only that, but even their instruments, like people took the time to get to know them. That the parent in Miami who decided that this book should be pulled from the shelves did not even know that Amanda Gorman was the author of the poem. She attributed the poem to Oprah Winfrey. And so she didn't even know who it was that she was talking about when she says, I just don't like this poem. And when she was writing to the board to have the book pulled from the shelves, she herself could not use correct grammar. Right? And so you have people who are ignorant on so many levels. And I don't even want to say ignorant. You're incompetent. You're incompetent as it relates to your intellect. You are incompetent as it relates to your social understanding. You're incompetent as it relates to your knowledge of who people are and what they have contributed to us through their gifts to the world. You don't have any clue about what you're talking about. All you know is, I don't want to lift up blackness. I do not want to celebrate or center blackness. So I'm just gonna start. You pull the book, and so you don't even take the time to assess yourself and to think about your own insecurities and to think about your own racism, to think about your own isms, and yet you come for me. And so I think that is important. So Kwame reminds us here that she filed a complaint against that poem and against a book by Langston Hughes. She admitted yesterday that she never read the poem nor the book. Proves my point. Exactly. And so think about it. This would be the type of person that would be my manager on a job.
Yes.
This would be the type of person who has the power to decide whether or not I'm proficient, whether or not I'm efficient, whether or not I'm effective. And you don't even know yourself, nor do you know the job that I'm supposed to do. How you gonna manage me? And you want to say we don't want to work? No, we don't want to work under these circumstances. Don't try to act like I don't want to do my job. You've created an environment where it's impossible for me to do my job. Now you mad at me for quitting? No, I am raising up to do what's best for me.
Right. I'm calling you on there.
Hotel, brother.
Hey, Hotel.
Hotel.
Sister Denise.
Hotel.
Just to give you some background on is why most African artists are well received in Europe. The name Europe itself is from African deity called Europa. Okay, you have the grandson of Peter the Great, who created the Russian language and the Russian culture. Okay, you have the Ainu and Joma people, who are progenitor of all people of Japanese descent. All right. So that's why black folks overseas. They know our history better than we do, and they understand the greatness that comes from within us, and the things that we do, say, act, and move abroad. But we don't know our own history as to why. Okay, and that's the problem. And you've gotten this pushback from folks. No, you don't need to keep that. Yeah, you do, because the truth is the truth, no matter who steals it. And with that, peace and blessings, y'all.
And I think this goes also to the comment that we have from Phyllis Brown, which harkens back to Tuesday's tidbit from the EJI, the Equal Justice Initiative, where we talked about the fact that George Washington had a person who he had enslaved, and then that person escaped, and he had put out a reward for the return of that slave. And so here is the comment. Perhaps we can talk and learn the 12 U.S. presidents who owned slaves. Of these, 8 owned slaves while in office. 10 of the first 12 American presidents were slave owners, the only exceptions being John Adams and his son, John Quincy Adams, neither of whom approved of slavery. George Washington was the first president who owned slaves while he was president. Zachary Taylor was the last who owned slaves during his presidency. And Ulysses S. Grant was the last president to have owned slaves. And so when you have this kind of history that continues to be perpetuated through the fact that you will not tell the truth, you refuse to tell the truth, these people are the ones who are at the many of our managers are ancestors of this lineage, right? And so if you don't want to deal with who you are, you don't want to deal with your history, then you're not reckoning with who you have become. And now you've created these spaces where you want me to work for you with this kind of idea of who I am as a person or as less than a person, then yeah, I don't want to work for you.
Yeah, and then when you take in the fact, in the fact that, and I said this earlier, that you want to take diversity training out. You don't want to recognize equality. You don't want to recognize, the humanity in everyone. You want to censor. You want to make rules about sex. You want to make rules about gender. You want to make rules about women's bodies, women's rights. You want to do all this, and then you expect people just to say, okay, since you are making these rules, I'm going to fall in line with it. And that's where it becomes problematic because, how, like you said, how dare you rise up against the rules that I make? And I think when it comes to Black people, in particular, every time there has been, when Black people rise up, it becomes problematic. It's all you have to do is look at Haiti. Haiti is still paying the price for rising up as a country. It's still paying a price. You can come from the war in Ukraine. You can come from the war in Afghanistan. You can come from even from Central America. You can come from Cuba, and you can come into the U.S. If you are coming in, if you are Haitian and you coming into the U.S., they will stop you in the middle of the ocean and turn you around and take you back. They don't even give you an opportunity to get here to get deported back. They stop you, and they refuse to get aid to you. And so when you understand those facts about the history of this country, then it gives you a better understanding of what you need to do and what you need to wake up to. Carl, you on there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna take one more bite off that one. If Brother Hotep is listening, he knows who I am. I'm Brother WJJ. Please give your phone number to Brother Neil because I'm getting ready to start a book, a reading club, a book club, and it's going to be geared toward the young Black brothers because our young Black brothers need to learn what Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington, Du Bois, and all of the power of literature. Thank you.
I'm sorry, that just tickled me. I love the fact that the community radio station is a place where you can connect. Like, look, I need your phone number. I'm loving that.
That's
and Hotep is
radio.
listening. So Hotep, I hope you heard that. We need you to get your number to Neil Seeley. If you want me to do that, just send me a text. I'll make sure that I make that connection for you. But I think that this conversation also lends itself to talking about unions. And so the United States fights so hard to silence people through not having unions. And so that's a place where your voice can be heard. There's a place where you can fight. There's a place where you can negotiate so that you can get the best conditions that you need. And the unions are not allowed. Like they just shut down the teachers union a couple of years ago, right? But what union they have not touched is the police union. And I was thinking about that with the death of the young 11-year-old in Mississippi. You still are allowing them to have paid leave when they kill somebody because that's negotiated through their contracts. And so you pick and choose who you allow to speak because you are still rooted in the system of racism. And we have to reckon with that in order for us to move forward and in order for our work environments to improve.
Yeah, and going back to something I said earlier, when you look at over the past couple of months, you look at France, the workers have just, they have hit the streets all over France, because the government wants to raise the minimum retirement age from 62 to 64, and they have just hit the streets. But that's just not with that. Anytime something is affecting workers, they're going to get out and protest. And it's just not this one section of workers. It's all the workers come together to stand and protest.
But don't they have like a workers' party?
Yes, they have a labor.
They have a labor party. And see, this goes back to something that Solar Beam talks about all the time, this need to expand our political system so that we're not dealing just with Republicans or Democrats, but in the places where you're talking, you've got people that work for all kinds, you've got different parties that represent all kinds of issues. And so people are able to plug in intersectionally in order to get the work done.
Yeah, and when you really think about it, whether some people agree with it or not, when you look at most European countries, when you talk about the different groups that are represented, they have a socialist party, they have a conservative party, they have a Democratic party, they have a Green party, they have a Labor party. They have all these different parties that represent every segment of people. And so, that's a way for everybody to have a voice. And here, they want to stifle the voices. They want to stifle, they just want you to believe what they want you to believe instead of being able to really voice what's really going on. And if they would expand these parties to represent everybody, it would be, very, very helpful to everybody in this country. And think about strikes. So the writers are on strike, and the business, the entertainment business, or these shows, different things. They're like, how are we gonna complete these shows? How are we gonna complete these movies? And how are we gonna do this? But these workers, these writers, and because the writers are on strike, you're having a lot of other entities in the other unions, because in the entertainment, it's unions. Everybody is part of a union. You have to be a union member because you have to get these union. These jobs are union jobs, and you get paid for each job, you get paid a certain amount of money, period. And so now these other unions within that's a part of all this, they're starting to strike. They want to support these writers, and that's what I used to love about when these car manufacturers, when those automobile workers would go on strike. They would go on strike. The Teamsters would go on strike with them. The people who make the parts for the car, they go on strike. You have all these other entities going on strike, which forces the business or forces the car maker to be like, hey, we need to sit down and negotiate even better. We need to sit down and talk about this, because we can't have all these entities on strike, because it's going to shut everything down. And that's one of the chants that we do when we're doing actions. If they don't do it, what we're going to do, we're going to shut it down. And I think if we rise up, in the way that we can, I believe that more can get done.
I think we also have to be honest about this two-party system that we say we have. We say it's two-party, Republican and Democrat, but my experience of it is it's one part. It's always been just one part, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And so we don't have. I have a friend named Sissy who does the work that she's doing. The work that they do is a cross movement, cross issue work, where you realize that you are not just one identity. The way that we have this party system set up, even if we believe that there's a Republican and a Democrat party, that's all you are. You identify as just that. But when you have a multiple party system, you are allowed to see yourself reflected across multiple identities. So I'm not just Black. I am also woman. I'm not just Black and woman. I am also a worker. I am not just Black and woman and a worker. I'm also a parent. I'm not just Black woman, worker, and parent. I'm also Republican or Democrat or Green Party or whatever that party is. And so when you begin to think about and allow people to bring more of their selves to the space, then you have a different way of struggling together. You have a different way of campaigning. You have a different way of protesting. You have a different way of raising up your voices, because it's a broader understanding of who people are, other than I'm Republican or I'm Democrat or I'm liberal or I'm conservative. That is so limiting, and it does not value the whole of who we are.
You're right, and I think you have to think about something else. We're in this system. A lot of people are allowing somebody else to determine what they should think, to determine what they should believe, based on they hear one thing, and just because they hear that one thing that they can agree with this person or with this party, then they go all in with the party, but they don't really listen to all the other stuff that the party represents.
Well, I think, and that's why we need to be careful with this LEARNS Act, because everybody's focusing on the fact that it's going to offer a raise to the teachers, that they're not hearing anything else. We're just so glad that they want to give a raise to the teachers. And don't get me wrong, teachers absolutely need raises, but there's more to this act than just that.
Yes, and I was talking to Denise the other day, and I was telling her, when I read about more what they were doing, what they did, so there was money getting into each state from the rescue plan, the federal rescue plan. It was given to school districts to use for salaries and retention. So that money was already there, and so remember a few months ago they had this meeting to see about releasing this money. The legislators said, no, we're not going to even talk about releasing this money. We're not going to give this money to the school district. We're going to do something else. So there's this big thing because they were saying this money could be used for salaries. So now what happened is you passed the LEARNS Act, and what did they do? The legislative council, oh, you know what? That money that was there for salaries, we're going to go ahead and release it now. That's how we're going to help pay for the LEARNS Act, is through this money. And I'm saying, well, hold up. If you want to give salaries, you need to tell me you could have done it back then. But because you waited, you knew that if we get the right person in office, now we can use this caveat of raises and get it done, but it's already there. Hey, I'm at 10 o'clock. So hey, thank you for tuning in. Remember, it's Players Drive. Make sure that you get your players and donation in. Make sure you tune in on Monday for Down with That. No, Monday's Memorial Day, so we will not be here for Down with That. But next Tuesday for Community Voices. Next Thursday for the workplace. Friday, tomorrow is the first day of Dominoes in the Park.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the first day of Dominoes in the Park. If you can.
What time does it start?
4 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where is it going to be?
Petaway Park, 21st on 21st and Park.
In between 20th Park and is that Rock?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, do you think we need to wait until next Friday to promote it more?
I'm good with tomorrow. I just didn't know.
Okay.
And if I didn't know, the people probably didn't know. But I don't think it's hard.
Okay. All right. Everybody have a great day. Talk to you later.
Bye.
We are 100,000